Okay, Council, we're just getting organized here. We will be getting underway in the next few minutes. Thank you. Okay, I think we generally have everybody. Madam Clerk, I'd like to officially call this meeting to order at 1:49 p.m. For those who are just tuning in, we apologize for the delay. Our General and Finance Committee ran a little bit late this morning, but I think we're getting back and we will get back on track. We should have all council here, and we also notice that Councillor Jagowitz has joined us for the afternoon session today. Welcome back, Councillor Jagowitz. We also obviously joined by our CAO and senior staff. As we move on, I do want to acknowledge today that we are on lands traditionally occupied by Indigenous peoples, and it's been Indigenous peoples that have cared for this territory for the benefit of future generations. Their stewardship of our lands is greatly appreciated and is certainly recognized today and tomorrow. We did not receive any public comments through our email address. And we're going to continue on. I'll ask right now whether there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest on today's agenda. Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, we're good. We have an invited delegation at 1:30, but we're past that. We're going to go on for a second here to some consent agenda items, first of all, as we start. And we need to receive a few minutes. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Bridgman, seconded by Councillor Edwards. Be it resolved that the Mayor and Council adopt and enact the following minutes and recommendations contained in the August 11th, 2021 consent agenda, and direct staff to proceed with all necessary administrative actions. Number one is the July 14th, 2021 General Finance Committee meeting minutes. Action items 2 and 4 to 10. July 14th Council minutes, July 15th Planning Committee minutes, and action items 1 to 5, and as well as the July 16th Special Planning Committee meeting minutes and action items 1 and 2. Any comments? I'll call the question. All those in favor? Madam Clerk, looks unanimous to me. Thank you very much. Okay, so this morning we had some direction to potentially bring a resolution forward, and that was respect to a license agreement. McDonald, this is off of Purdy Road, and this was at our council meeting a month ago, was referred back to General and Finance this morning. It was approved at General and Finance, and to be expeditious, we may want to consider moving this back and passing it through today. I'll ask, I need 2/3 of council to approve this, but the resolution to approve this would be, first of all, to put on the floor. Moved by Councillor Bridgman, seconded by Councillor Hayes, whereas Section 3516 of Township Council Procedural Bylaw 2019-79 provides that a motion may be introduced without notice of council, without debate, dispense with notice by a 2/3 vote. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Township Council hereby consents to the consideration and vote on a new motion with respect to license agreement application McDonald Rule 2, 24, 72, and 40. Again, this was referred this morning. I'll ask for the vote. All those in favor? Madam Clerk, I think we're covered off. It's 2/3, that's carried. Thank you. And then specifically with that item, There are two specific items. Resolution moved by Councillor Bridgman, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved that the following recommendations with respect to license agreement application McDonald Rule 22472-40 be enacted for action. And they came to the June 16th, 2021 General and Finance Committee, action item 4. And then also today, the August 11th, 2021 General Finance Committee, action item 2. They are the same, but we're capturing them both in the prior resolution. Any comments or questions on the resolution on the floor? I'll call the question. All those in favor? And anyone opposed? Madam Clerk, I believe we're carried. Thank you very much. We do have a couple of, just trying to work my way through here. We have a couple of notice of motion. First one is moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved that the Township of Muskoka Lake supports Town of Cochrane resolution of June 22nd, 2021 regarding PSA tests for men covered in the National Health System. Councillor Edwards, did you want to speak to this before I call the vote? Nope, we're all good. Council, any further comments? All those in favor? Anybody opposed? Nope, no one's opposed. Everyone's in favor. Madam Clerk, we're carried. Thank you. We have another resolution, and again, notice of motion from Councillor Edwards. Moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved, Township of Muskoka Lake supports the resolution from Town of Fort Erie, dated May 31st, 2021, regarding capital gains on primary residence. Councillor Edwards, again, let the motion stand, or do you want to comment?
I can comment on it. I think that it's self-explanatory that basically we shouldn't be taxing personal properties, and that if somebody saves all their life or something, they shouldn't be taxed away. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else want to comment? You've all heard the resolution. All those in favor? Madam Clerk, looks like we are unanimous. Councillor Edwards for the trifecta today, moved by Councillor Edwards, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved, Township Muskoka Lake supports the correspondence from the Township of Tay Valley dated June 23rd, 2021 regarding provincial hospital funding of major capital equipment. Councillor Edwards, I'll turn to you again, sir.
I think this is a provincial matter. They should be funding it, and that it all comes out of the taxpayers' pocket. But I think it should be looked after by the province. That we pay enough for healthcare. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, any comments on the resolution? All those in favor? Madam Clerk, I think we're good. Thank you. I may back up a little bit. We've got a bunch of senior management reports, but we did have, where am I here? Where was our, well, no, it's also, we have an invited delegation. I just lost my piece of paper. Do we not?
Yes, we do.
For 1:30, and I know we're past 1:30, so maybe we can move on. There it is, I believe. Ian Mayhew is our invited delegation. So actually, I'll get Mr. Moore, I think, just to briefly introduce this. Corey, do you want to introduce the resolution? Then we can also have our invited delegation speak to it as well. Over to you, Corey.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yes, we have a staff report included on the agenda, providing an overview of requests we had received from the organizers of the Shake the Lake charity benefit event to be held at the beginning of September. Similar to the Cranberry Festival report, we've identified in the appendices the required approvals. The organizers did provide an update to staff yesterday. There's some slight changes to those requests. They no longer need the special occasions permit. So they will provide an update on that as well. But the two main requests from the township are going to be a waiving of the business licensing fees so that they can host vendors at the event during the 5-day period, and to utilize some municipal parking lots to assist with parking. So with that, I will probably turn it over to the delegates, Your Worship, and they'd like to provide an overview of the event to council and be available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moore. We're just going to welcome them in. I think there's the Mayhews, both Ian and Warren, as well as Stuart Manchee. I see people coming in right now. Might just be Stuart. I'm not sure who's in the waiting room, but as we let others in, Stuart, maybe I'll turn it over to you. Welcome, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mayor Harding, is it? Yeah, nice to meet you. Yeah, nice to see you again. So sorry, Warren and I are here together. I'm just going to make our screen full screen so we can focus here. There we go. Now we can see everyone. Hi there. I'd just like to basically say thank you guys under such tight time constraints for even corresponding, and everyone's really been great, from Corey to Cheryl and everyone on your team. The correspondence has been really helpful, and we appreciate it. The second thing is we also understand that in a usual circumstance that the grant process is the normal way to go about organizing an event of this nature. We feel that under the, with the diagnosis of our friend Ryan in May, and with this plan that, we've put together, and all of the people that have come on board, we really wouldn't have been able to do it without, our own community within the community that we have hundreds of volunteers or dozens of volunteers ready to, do anything they can to help us. We also just want to first and foremost say the very, very most important thing to execute this is to follow and obey, and actually over and above obey the protocols of gatherings. So we've created an events ground that is 1/4 the regular licensed special occasion permit sort of area. And so it's less than 1/4, not half.
For Wakestock, where Wakestock was hosted several years ago, it was given a $5,000 person attendance possibility, and we're trying to keep it under 1,000.
Yeah, 750 to 1,000 per day. So that's just an update from our end in terms of the protocols. We also, just to let you guys know, have a custom survey from our ticket where we actually keep everyone's name and email on the online tickets. And we're going to be doing these types of Canatrace posters where every single person has to prove that they've done a whether they've been out of the country. You've seen them all, those general self-assessments. It's handled by Canatrace, and then we also provide each entrant with their own mask, like a gaiter like this, and we have sanitation stations everywhere. So between the contact tracing app, are following the protocols, having everything clean and socially distant, and also being fully outdoors. There's no indoor areas whatsoever other than a porta potty, the porta potties. We're really trying to prove and show that this is a calm, collected, very sort of, we're being very proactive in terms of doing above and beyond the protocols to do something like this.
I guess we just want to address all the concerns that the township might have, and make everyone on board, and make this a great event for everyone in the community, and support Bushy, and have fun, be outdoors. People are kind of nervous to go back indoors. I know the Key's talking about opening. I've worked at the Key for 8 years. He did it years before me as well.
I was there 20 years ago.
And just the idea of having 600 or 1,000 people back in the Keys is just like, makes people uneasy. So we're trying to do something, but we miss music. We miss live concerts.
The idea is it's a benefit for a good cause. We're going to be donating a good quarter or fifth of the net profits to Downey Wenjack and the Gord Downey Fund in Sunnybrook. Just a quick background: I did an event in 2016 in Sarnia with 12,000 people attending, and we were able to give 30,000 or 28,000 to the Sunnybrook Foundation as well. So I just wanted to say, those are the points and sort of things that we thought that you might want to hear off the bat, and then we're open to the floor. I mean, anything that you want to know or ask us, we're here to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll turn it to council for any questions at this particular point. Silence from, Councillor Zavitz, and then Councillor Nishikawa.
I think he's on mute.
Yep.
There you go.
There he is.
I was on mute.
Hey.
Actually, not a question to Stuart or your friend there, more to staff. What does this represent in terms of an ask, in terms of dollars and cents?
Mr. Moore, do you want to handle that?
So the only thing related to dollars and cents is the delegates are asking for a waiver of the business license fees. Similar to the Cranberry Festival, council waives the business license fees for vendors to participate in the event. Our current bylaw has an annual fee for vendors to obtain a business license, which can be a bit problematic for event organizers to encourage vendors to participate but pay a full annual fee to do so. We're looking to identify this moving forward in an event permit bylaw that would help assist this a bit better, but currently the only option we have to help provide assistance is to waive those fees. I think the annual fee for the license is just over $200. And I guess in a total sum, it would depend on the number of vendors the event will be hosting to determine what that total sum that fees that would be waived.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Zavitz, you okay with that? Okay, Councillor Nishikawa.
Totally figured out who's sleeping and what that was. It's totally.
Thank you.
We're just gonna put it all under.
Before Ruth, just before you go on, maybe Stuart, I can get you just to mute your microphone right now. We're getting some
Sorry,
background
we're
noise.
we're at the Clear Lake brew.
Okay, thank you. Councillor,
Hi.
there we go.
Thank you.
Councillor
So just to go forward, because of the short notice, I reached out to the executive of the Legion, particularly because of the Victoria Street parking facility. Mostly because we have a lot of memorials happening now, and they have no issues whatsoever. Of course, we're in support of Ryan and Bushy, and also I reached out to a couple of other businesses just so that we did our due diligence to reach out, and in fact, there's a tremendous support from the community.
Well, that's really, I mean, I'm really thankful to hear that, and we appreciate you reaching out and sort of, you know, getting a litmus test for how other people would feel about something like this. You know, this is not wake stock. The big thing about this is a curated 3 or 4 acts per day, very sort of, you know, like we said on the Wednesday, one thing that's on our schedule, and we can provide a poster for you guys with the new updated acts that are coming. But the Wednesday is for the community. So everyone can come as long as they do the can of trays. It's by donation, suggested of $20, but we don't, you know, we're not going to track that, all through electronic payment or cash, whatever they'd like. And then the community is welcome to come on Wednesday to do a full walkthrough, hang out. We're going to do a silent auction with lots of people have given us silent auction items. And then that would be something for the community to feel like, okay, I get it. I see where they're doing everything. I see how it's laid out. We may do a comedian narrated ski show on Wednesday evening just for fun. I have a couple of comedians coming. That would be, yeah, all ages.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'm
Awesome.
working at Coop and Port Carling, and everyone, I just kind of put feelers out. Obviously, we haven't announced because we want to talk to you guys first and make sure everyone's on board and do everything we can before we just blow it out of the water and then have to backstep and pull it all back. But yeah, everyone, I just kind of mentioned it too. They're like, we'll do anything. Everyone's really involved, wants to give and support. So it's interesting. It's fun.
So yeah, the community is welcome to come on Wednesday with no ticket.
Awesome. Thank you. I'll go to Councillor Hayes.
Okay, thank you. And through you, I've been to events at the Bush Ski School before, and they've always been well run and lots of people, no incidents. So I have no problem.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, I think I know where this is going. I'm going to have a resolution, and I'm going to move by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Be it resolved, Township Council approve the Shake the Lake charity benefit event requests included in Appendix 2 of the staff report entitled Shake the Lake Benefit Requests and dated August 11th, 2021, and the Bylaw 2021-126 to temporarily exempt the Shake the Lake charity benefit and its participants from the Bylaw 2017-90 business licensing fees be read a first, second, third time and finally passed. Any further comments? All those in favor? There we go. Unanimous support.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you so much.
We really are very grateful for all of you, and we welcome you to come and have a taco and a sandwich and see the event grounds and hopefully enjoy some of the weekend. And we'd also love to, just before we finish, one of the local charity ideas that I chatted with Corey about was to donate to one or two or more of the public schools music programs and to help them buy some instruments or do something like that if there's a summer camp or after school. I don't know what programs are in place, but we can talk about that in September, and we would love to fast forward that so they can have some for this school year. So we have instrument suppliers who would help us. That's one of the things I thought of for maybe a community program for this.
That's awesome. And I'll let Mr. Moore coordinate with our schools on that. So, but thank you. And our support also for Ryan and his recovery going forward. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Okay, take care.
We'll talk soon.
Yep, take care, everyone.
Okay,
Bye now.
I'm going to turn over next to our CAO and for service delivery enhancements for COVID-19. Mr. Hammond, to you.
Thanks, your worship, and good afternoon, members of council. This report is further to the series of reports that you've seen over the last 18 months as it relates to municipal operations in a COVID-19 environment. More specifically, this report makes some suggestions for service enhancements, and that's following a review of the most recent COVID-19 Delta variant caseloads, where we're at with the province's reopening roadmap, the township's reopening framework, as well as the local medical officer of health's advice. So that information was used to balance a desire to increase service offerings as well as protect our employees and members of council. As noted in the report, the strategic leadership team feels that we can move to an appointment-based system for certain matters not currently addressed through our technological service offerings or means. As it relates to council meetings, the report notes that for the time being, we should continue with our current format. And as always, staff will continue to monitor this fluid situation and adjust course as necessary. I and or the other members of the strategic leadership team would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, I'll turn it over to council for any questions on the report. I'm not seeing any. Oh, Councillor Hayes.
Thank you. Through you to the CAO. Derek, do we have any idea when we are going to get a receptionist to answer the telephone? I just had a call from a gentleman in between the two meetings, and he had been trying to get a hold of somebody, and he just can't manage to get through all of the technical push this button. So I was just wondering if we had plans to have a human being answering the phone at some point, because that would be probably the best thing that we could do to get people feeling back to normal.
Okay, give us a second here. I'm not sure whether our clerk, as reception falls under her department or not, wants to answer that. Cheryl?
Well, currently our department is not fully staffed, so I think until that time we wouldn't be able to implement that, but we would hope to as soon as we can.
Okay, I think the other comment I would note that I know I've called the main number, and occasionally I do get a staff, and they've actually been at home, so the phones get forwarded. I'm not sure why they don't always get someone, whether it be a lunch break or not. I think it's probably just, as the clerk has said, short-staffed as to the biggest reason right now that we are not able to answer every phone. So that's on the clerk's department role. Councillor Zavitz?
Thank you. Through you. Certainly, Derek, I've spoken with the CEO about this. I guess my only thought is certainly, we have to be so cautious here. But I do think it's important for us to show our constituents that, we're mindful of the future. And I personally would be quite comfortable if we had a target date of January 1 that we're heading towards. Now, I know that might be a little ambitious or not, but I do think in the interest of again, moving on, I wonder why we wouldn't set some targets. At least we could see if we could achieve those targets as opposed to down the road. Thank you.
I'm gonna let our CIO chime in on that one.
Thanks, Your Worship. So the last sort of major report that we brought forward, we did talk about a January sort of timeframe as hopefully a resumption to new normal or back to normal. And so that is definitely a target date. This current report deals with sort of the interim space that we find ourselves in and the need to be nimble to adjust to circumstances given the potential for a Delta variant surge. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Anybody else? Okay, out of this, there is one action item and one resolution that we do need to pass that talks about opening the office to in-person meetings, limited 15 minutes, and that would be in effect as of September 13th, and then also to continue with our virtual meetings at this point. So I have a resolution moved by Councillor Mazan, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that the Township Office open to in-person meetings, limited to 15 minutes in length by appointment, effective September 13th, 2021, and that council meetings continue to be held remotely at this time. Any comments or questions on this? I have one comment or question, and I'm not sure if CIO wants to handle it or the clerk. Should something go south, so to speak, with a new variant and increased lockdowns or changes, do we have time to amend this coming early September, or do we need to call a special council meeting? Is my only concern about that, that if we're guaranteeing we're open a month from now, and if something was to go the other way. Mr. CIO, would you like to answer that?
Your Worship, I think that if the situation does go to your words south, I think that we would take the action necessary and report to council in due course. I don't know that we would need to hold an emergency meeting to seek approval. I think the prudent thing would be to take the action and advise council accordingly.
Okay, and I just want to make sure we're clear on that, and that we don't overstep our duty. I believe our next council meeting would be on the 15th, 2 days after this. So to reverse that direction, as Madam Clerk, are you okay with just a verbal nod that should something change, that the CAO has authority to not follow this direction, or how do you want to proceed with that?
We could just add something.
That might be an idea, just that we would add a pending changes with provincial guidelines, I think. So Councillor Kelly, you had a comment before I amend this?
Thank you, and through you, it's just a question. I'm curious about the science behind limiting it to 15 minutes. It's the first I've heard of any 15-minute.
The question to staff is, what's the science behind 15 minutes? Derek, do you want to comment?
Your Worship, the 15 minutes was thought that most of the matters that would be dealt through these means are transactional in nature, so a limited duration of time. So commissioning of a document, submitting an application, those types of things. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Council, I've made a slight amendment to this, moved by Councillor Mazan, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved, Township Office open to in-person meetings, limited 15 minutes in length, by appointment effective September 13th, 2021, pending changes in provincial guidelines, and the council meetings continue to be held remotely at this time. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I wasn't sure how to raise this, and there has been a concern, and I've, along with, I know a few other councillors have tried to assist people. Mostly it's planning information that they require. The message to the public that I've heard from is they're pretty dismayed that the message from our township is, unless you have an application, we're not talking to you. And I really feel that somewhere along the line, if we have to designate one individual or whatever, that we figure out something different, whatever that looks like. And I don't know what it is or could, but I would just say that it's not being received very nicely, I would say. Whereas, and in some cases, there is nowhere else for people to turn. yes, they can call their counselor and hopefully they'll get some response or an answer or that type of thing. But I really kind of hope that we can find a better way to be able to communicate with the public is all I would request.
Mr. Hammond.
Your worship, I appreciate the councillor's comments. Certainly the notion of general inquiries was addressed by council to address the COVID related workload for the planning team, along with the increase in development applications that may be occurring as a result of the official plan discussions. But at that point, we recognized there was a massive increase in the workload, and council authorized the team to focus on the applications that come through the door, and they are increased from previous years in terms of quantity. That decision was taken in view of the fact that the planning team is generally, there's been a complete staff turnover and staff are learning their roles. The hope is over time that that the team will be in a position to address some of these inquiries. So we understand and we're trying to do the best we can given the circumstances. I don't know if Mr. Pink has any additional comments that he wishes to share, Your Worship, but that's sort of a general overview.
Thank you for that. I think we're probably okay, as CAO Hammond did comment. We dealt with this a few months ago. I do believe in discussions that our planning department's getting a little bit more on track, and maybe Mr. Pink can give us a verbal update as to what we're doing maybe next month to try and answer some of these, because I agree with you, Councillor Ishikawa, there's not a councillor around this table that doesn't get numerous phone calls about planning related matters on a regular basis. So you've all heard the resolution with amended pending changes in provincial guidelines. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Madam Clerk, we're carried. I'll even initial that for you at the same time. There we go. Okay, we've got a couple of land agreements. I'm just going to read these. Moved by Councillor Hayes, second by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that a portion of original shore road allowance on Leonard Lake, laying in front of concession 9, lot 22 Monk, under the name of Winter, roll 9639, be declared surplus, and that the clerk is hereby instructed to dispose of said property pursuant to section 8, 9, and 11 of the Municipal Act 2001, and further bylaw 2021-112 to stop, up, close, and convey part 2 on plan 35R 26447, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed. Any comments? All those in favor? Looks carried to me. Thank you. We have one more of those. Moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Mazan. Be it resolved that a portion of original shore road allowance on 3 Mile Lake, lying in front of concession 6, lot 15 Watt, Manchee. That is wrong. I know it is. I apologize. And Thorn, roll 21692, be declared as surplus lands, and that the clerk is hereby instructed to dispose of said property pursuant to section 8, 9, 11 of Municipal Act 2001. Further, the bylaw 2021-113 to stop, up, close, and convey part 1 on plan 35R 26376 be read a first, second, third time, and finally passed. All those in favor? Thank you very much. That is carried. Okay, I think we're going to our Director of Finance for a little bit of the modernization intake break. Mr. Donaldson, quick overview.
Great, thank you, Your Worship. The report before you is pretty self-explanatory. We received approval for a grant under the intake 2 of the municipal modernization that we are using to fund our information technology strategic plan, which is currently underway. And the report just looks to council for authorization to enter into that transfer payment agreement with the province.
Okay, I'm going to read the resolution. Moved by Councillor Zabit, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-121 to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a funding agreement under the Municipal Modernization Program Information Technology Strategic Plan be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed. Any comments? All those in favor? Madam Clerk, once again, we're unanimous. User fees and charges, Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is just a short report, a follow-up from last month's discussion that took place at General Finance Committee. There was a proposal made for new fees and user fees and charges to be effective January 1, 2022. There were 3 items that were raised at that discussion that this report just deals with following up on. The first one related to original shore road allowance purchase and the cost per square foot of that area. More analysis was done and an appendix is attached with respect to our comparable rates to our municipal lower tier peers. And we found that the amounts that we were proposing for the new rates were very much in line with our other peers. A change would put us probably quite out of sync with those, and so there was concerns as to whether or not that was where we wanted to go. So this report does not include any changes to the proposal that was made to the committee last month. There was a subsequent item with respect to the charges for duplicate tax bill, and there was a clarification that any tax bill that is returned to the municipality as undelivered would be sent out to the resident to the correct address at no charge. So there would be no duplicate charge for those situations. The third item related to multiple complaints on the bylaw idea and whether or not the $100 was sufficient. And the amendment is that the $100 is cumulative per recurring call. So 100, 200, 300. Of course, that would be managed by the Chief Bylaw Enforcement Officer to ensure that that was being applied in a fair and equitable way. So the schedules that are attached for committee or for council's consideration reflect amendments on the duplicate tax and the multiple complaints items that were discussed at General and Finance. Happy to take any questions on that.
Thank you. Any comments? Or I can just probably go right to the resolution. Moved by Councillor Edwards. In under the wire.
Thank you very much. On the shore road allowances for class 1, $1.40. I noticed Bracebridge is $1.55, I believe, and I thought our land up here was almost premium in that. Is there any wiggle room there? Because I think that, I think even $1.55 per square foot seems to be a real good value.
Mark, do you want to comment how we got to those values?
I'll just clarify one point, and then I'll ask the clerk if she wants to add any comment to it. But the numbers in the appendix are the current rates, not the proposed rates. So we would be increasing that to $1.50 effective January 1. But I'll ask the clerk if she wants to make any further comment on the relativity to the other municipalities on our charges.
Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Edwards? You're okay with that?
No, it's fine. It was just that, in fact, I believe you had made a comment one of the other meetings that we're selling stuff pretty cheap, and that's why I had asked that question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? I have a resolution moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-122 to amend bylaw 2018-87 township user fees and charges be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? I think we're all good. Carried. Thank you. Okay, we have a report. We're updating some of the citizens on our hall board, the community center in Walker's Point, and also on our economic development grants committee. Names and everything's in the report. I'm going to read the resolution moved by Councillor Zavitz, seconded by Councillor Bridgman. Be resolved the following bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Bylaw 2021-119 to amend bylaw 2019-64 to appoint citizen members to the community center boards, Walker's Point Community Center, and bylaw 2021-124 to amend bylaw 219-65 to establish and appoint members to advisory committees to the Economic Development and Grants Committee. Any further comments? All those in favor? Madam Clerk, carried. Director Becking, you're up for Ann Street boat launch.
Thank you, Your Worship. This matter was last before committee last month. At that time, staff were directed to give public notice of the intent to pass the bylaw. Consistent with that direction, staff posted notice on the township website and also placed a physical notice at the boat launch in question. One comment was received in opposition to the proposal. The staff proposal that was before you recommended a limited commercial activity. This will minimize any disturbance and therefore acknowledges the concerns of the individual who posted an objection. That said, staff recommend that the amending bylaw be passed.
Okay, anybody have any comments? Councillor Roberts.
Sorry, through you to Director Becking. What's the difference between limited and full usage of a commercial dock? How do we describe limited? Thank you.
Director Becking.
Your Worship, the bylaw as it currently exists identifies two classes of commercial use. One is a limited, where the size of the vessel that is allowed to use it is reduced to, I believe, 8 feet in width and no longer than 25 feet in length, and can only be a single vessel, as opposed to full commercial operations where there can be multiple vessels involved, and larger vessels are permitted. The concern was with respect to disturbance in the community, and it's believed that the reduced vessel size will address the concern.
Okay. Director Becking, I did receive one point of question from a concerned resident that's concerned about the environmental impact, if you will, and have we done any to update and change to a commercial activity, understanding that there's wildlife, turtles, beavers, et cetera, in and around the boat launch. And do we need to concern ourselves with that at this particular time in the change of use from a regular boat ramp to a commercial ramp?
None that I'm aware of, Your Worship.
Okay, Councillor Hayes.
Through you, this was a light commercial ramp before. And then last year, I think someone moored a boat there for commercial, and at that ramps as a light commercial ramp. So it was put up that you couldn't do that. The boats that will be launching for the light commercial will be the same boats that will be going out fishing the next weekend. So the size of the ramp itself actually dictates to a very small vessel. So I don't think there'll be no change in use, actually, because there'll be no change in the type of vessel using it.
Okay. Any other comments? I have a resolution moved by Councillor Savitz, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-107 to add an Ann Street boat launch to Schedule E of bylaw 2003-29 public docks and ramps be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any other comments? I'll call the question. Oh, Councillor Zavitz, or you have a comment?
Through you, just to, given what we've just been through these last few months, when one parks or places a commercial watercraft there, where does one park?
Director Becking.
The vessel is allowed to be there for loading and unloading purposes, Your Worship. It's not intended to be parking.
Okay.
The vessel has to find its own place to reside outside of the loading and unloading provisions.
And the vehicle is with a commercial truck trailer as well?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
There is no parking.
Councillor Hayes.
Through you, there is actually township-owned land, kitty corner to the dock itself. And that land, although it's not the greatest, you can get 1 or 2 vehicles in there and they will be completely off the road, and that includes the trailer.
Okay. Any further? I've read the resolution. All those in favor? And Burke, we're carried as well. Thank you, Mr. Becking. Much appreciated. Manager of Planning, I'm not sure, Mr. Sharp, if you want to introduce conditions of consent application for Westbury International.
Thank you, Your Worship. Council will call approving consent applications in the name of Westbury International last month. As detailed in my report, certain conditions of consent requested by the district were not included in the resolution that was ratified by council or included in the notice of passing that was circulated. The conditions relate to the requirement for a district entrance permit and an agreement about the location of wells in relation to District Road 7. I have recommended that the conditions be amended as outlined in council's resolution. I have no further comments to add at this time, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, any comments, questions from council? I have a resolution moved by Councillor Bridgman, second by Councillor Evers. I think I'm in a planning committee meeting. Be it resolved that notice of decision dated July 27th, 2021 for consent applications B 45621 ML, Westbury International Rules 491537 be amended to add condition number 8, that the applicant obtains written confirmation from the District Municipality of Muskoka that an entrance permit can be issued for the proposed severed lots for access onto the district road, and that condition 9 be added, that the lands be subject to an agreement with the District Municipality of Muskoka pursuant to section 5126 of the Planning Act RSO 1990 as amended, respecting the location of wells in relation to the district road. Any further comments? All those in favor? That too is carried. Okay, we're just trucking along here. I love it. Responsible enjoyment use of certain township lands. Consent would be read a first, second time. Clerk, where am I at with this here?
986. It was recommended from the previous council.
986. Okay. So we're done. All those. Thank you. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Nishikawa, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that by law 2021-120 to regulate and promote responsible enjoyment and use of certain township lands lying in concessions 11 and 12. Township of Wood be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. I'm going to ask the question. Where's concession 11 and 12? And help me just a little background before we just regulate this. I'm having a little bit of a seniors moment between last session and now. Who wants to handle that? Oh, this is Torrance Barrens? I think I
That is correct, Your Worship.
Okay, now I understand what we're talking about and I appreciate it. And we may at times want to insert our own words, Torrance Barrens, to help the public generally understand where concession 11 and 12 is, so to speak, going forward. Any further comments or questions? All those in favor? There we go. Carried. Thank you. Got a resolution to, let me just fast forward here. Okay, A8, and that's established discretionary operating capital reserves. I'm going to read the resolution moved by Councillor Hayes, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved that by law 2021-123 to establish discretionary operating and capital reserves for specific purposes be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Any comments? Capital reserves? All those in favor? Anyone not frozen opposed? Oh, there we go. That's carried. I saw them. I think the hands, last hands came up that seemed to be frozen originally. Resolution moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Mazan, be resolved by law 2021-77 to authorize cost recovery fees with respect to fire emergency incident response. Be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Anybody need any discussion on our recovery fees? All those in favor? That too is carried by everyone. Thank you. Okay, deeming bylaw moved by Councillor Mazan, second by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-125 to deem lots 15 and 16 on Plan M28, Lot 54 on Plan M57 in Bala, not to be a lot of a plan of subdivision, and that is under the name of Grady. Roll 7-2-16. We read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed. All in favor? That's carried. Okay, Madam Clerk, am I going to zoning bylaws? Who wants to introduce our first right now? Mr. Sharp or, Mr. Soya, I see your microphone before your camera. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good afternoon, members of council. This zoning bylaw amendment applies to the lands on which the Port Carling mini storage business currently operates, and it's bylaw 2021-046. The primary purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to repeal site-specific exemptions that were approved in the past, and to consolidate these and carry them forward in a single updated bylaw, and also to further increase the permitted lot coverage on this property. Please note that after the July Planning Committee meeting, a minor administrative correction was made by staff to the bylaw to correctly state which of the two site-specific bylaws is to be repealed in its entirety. As one of the bylaws includes a provision that applies to the abutting lands to the north, only the provisions which apply to this subject property should be repealed, and therefore that administrative change was made. I have no further comments, but would be happy to assist council with any questions. Thank you.
Okay, council, any comments or questions on this particular? I have a resolution moved by Councillor Mazan, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-46 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 107-2859 Ontario Limited, Rule 6-26-28-5 be read a first and second time. All those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Nishikawa's electronic hand raised. Thank you. Any minor amendments?
Not for this one, no.
Not for this one. Thank you very much. We'll get rid of that. Third final reading, moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Zavitz. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-46 107-2859 Ontario Limited be read a third time and finally passed. All those in favor? That is carried. Mr. Soya, maybe you can help us and refresh. I think we did take note of what the public comments were at the time when we went through our planning committee. Any notices there that you can help refresh your memory?
So we did have the effects at the time. It was stated that the application will assist with economic development and much needed storage service for the community.
Okay, but I don't think we had any negative public comments or anything along the line, so there was nothing really that affected us. So, okay. Is that good for you as to why we're approving this at this time? No real public opposition, I think, is the summation of our public comments. Thank you.
That would be correct, yes.
McDermott. Is that you again?
It is, yes. Thank you, Your Worship. So there's a few updates I'd like to point out. So this subject property is within the waterfront designation and is located to the southwest of the Port Carling Urban Center with frontage on the Indian River. This is a property where in 2017, a previous owner filled a portion of a wetland and considerable remediation work has since been undertaken. The purpose of the zoning bylaw amendment is to refine the boundary of the environmental protection zone to protect the wetland as recommended through a scoped environmental impact study. And the zoning bylaw also rezones portions of the property, restricts uses, facilitates proposed residential development on the property, and permits a dock to be located outside of the wetland and on the Indian River. In July, Planning Committee asked the applicant to obtain a status update from the environmental consultant that had been tasked with overseeing the remediation work. Accordingly, a recently received letter from Riverstone Environmental outlines that the applicant recently planted additional shrubs and therefore has now completed the remediation work, which included fill removal and other plantings in accordance with the restoration plan. Since the time of last month's planning committee meeting, an additional comment letter has been submitted by Jeff Goldman, the owner of the Hannah's Landing property on the opposite side of the Indian River. Mr. Goldman states that he has no objections, provided that several matters are addressed, which are summarized as follows: that the proposed dock will not interfere with the approved dock on his property, and that an environmental assessment be completed that addresses species at risk and retention of shoreline vegetation, and that the proposed residential development be reasonable in size, appropriately serviced and set back from the shoreline by 200 feet. To address Mr. Goldman's comments, and as is outlined in the staff report, the scoped environmental impact study included a scoped assessment of species at risk, recommended setbacks from the boundary of the wetland, and identified a suitable building location for a dwelling and septic system, which was located greater than 100 feet from the edge of the wetland and more than 500 feet from the shoreline along the Indian River. The exact location and design of the dock will be addressed through the site plan control process. So with having received the updated letter from Riverstone, staff have not identified any concerns subsequent to the planning committee meeting in July, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to read first and second. Moved by Councillor Hayes, seconded by Councillor Roberts. Be it resolved by law 2021-53 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14 McDermott, DFIBO, Rule 5.128 be read a first and second time. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Any minor amendments suggested this time, Mr. Soya?
Oh, sorry about that. No, Your Worship, there is no minor amendments that are recommended.
Okay, and based on the neighbors' comments, you're comfortable with the updated environmental reports that we will be okay and be able to satisfy all the neighbors' concerns?
I am confident that what was requested by Planning Committee, that requirement has been satisfied by what was submitted by Planscape or Riverstone.
Okay. Riverstone, thank you. Anybody else? Any comments, questions? Resolution moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Mazan. Be resolved that 2020, I believe that's bylaw.
Sorry, yes.
Bylaw 2021-53 McDermott, FIBO, DFIBO. Is it DFIBO? Okay, let's go with DFIBO. Be read a third time and finally passed. Any further comments? All those in favor? That is carried. Council impacts. I think we heard from the applicant. We heard from the neighbors. Obviously, lots of destruction in the past on the property, but this is certainly going to be a cleanup and trying to renaturalize as much as we can the wetland here, so that approving this is hopefully going to move us in the right direction. Fair comment? That'd be the impacts. Thank you. The trifecta, McNamara, Mr. Soya, is that for you? No, Caitlin.
Nope.
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. A zoning bylaw amendment has been submitted in the name of McNamara. Bylaw 2021-61 will have the effect of permitting the construction of a new accessory dining hall and sleeping cabin on a lot containing 2 dwellings, providing a site-specific definition for a dining hall, prohibiting interior and exterior alterations to the proposed dining hall, and repealing part of bylaw 2012-149 and defining a new envelope for the shoreline structures on the south side of the island. In July, Planning Committee recommended to Council that the application be approved. The effects stated at that time were that the agent's presentation and input from the applicants were helpful. Submissions were also received. The township departments had no concerns with the application. A letter of support was received from a neighboring property owner, and the district commented they would not be opposed to the approval of the application, provided appropriate development control techniques are used and implemented to implement the fish habitat assessment, implement standard water quality protection techniques, and ensure the dining hall and property are not utilized for resort commercial purposes. No minor amendments are required, and I have no further comments, but we'd be happy to assist council with any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm going to read first and second, moved by Councillor Zavitz, second by Councillor Bridgman. Be it resolved by law 2021-61 to amend comprehensive zoning bylaw 2014-14. McNamara, roll 4, 2550. Be ready first and second time. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Caitlin. No minor amendments you stated. Appreciate that. Moving on to third reading, moved by Councillor Evers, seconded by Councillor Hayes. Be it resolved that bylaw 2021-61 McNamara be read a third time and finally passed. Any comments from council before third reading? All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Caitlin, you so aptly reported on the impacts that we received. So thank you for that. And those can be noted in the record as well. Okay, Madam Clerk, where are we going from here? Closed session. There we go.
We have to remove the personnel matter.
Oh.
We already dealt. There's no.
Okay, so let's remove that. Okay, moved by Councillor Mazan, seconded by Councillor Nishikawa. Be it resolved that council in closed session convene at. Councillor Nishikawa is here. She just has her camera off. She can vote with her hand, I believe, at 2:49 p.m. for litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, and that is one OLT matter, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, and one disposition matter pursuant to section 239(2) of the Municipal Act 2001. All those in favor? She voted. She's still there. We're all good. Madam Clerk, you're good. Let's remove some people out of the meeting, and we will go into closed. Thank you all.